Okay, sorry about that. Back to this past year. So when I was in the Medicaid cab, I was on my way home. Basically, my mom kicked me out. From the moment I walked in the door, I was told that I could stay that night, but I needed to leave. I'm not ready to get into all the details of that because some really ugly shit went down, and I'm not sure that I really want to blow up all, my mom's spot like that, my spot like that, but it just didn't, it was really, really bad. And thankfully I had a good friend, Abby, step up and offer. I don't know if you guys remember last year, but I posted like I need some place to go for me and my dog. My friend Abby stepped up and took me in, and I tried to go back to the apartment, my mom's house, to get my shit, and I had to bring cops, and it was just so much fucking drama, and I just really felt very, very much betrayed by my mom. And unfortunately, I've felt this way many times with her, and so that made the whole thing worse, is that we were going through some old shit. We were like repeating old patterns. So anyway, wound up talking with my dad and his partner, Mike, and they agreed to help me out. And my dad they paid for an apartment for me, got me into a place, thank God. And I love my apartment on Elmwood. It's very nice. Then after that, I got a job at Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was awesome at first. I don't know if you guys remember. I was really, really proud to get that job. They hired me as I am, as you see me. And then once I got in there, I was told to refer to the handbook and look at their dress code, that it was that my hair was not up to dress code, and that I would need to be changed before I left training. So I started wearing a wig, and I just resented the hell out of it. I was miserable, and I basically self-sabotaged until the day that they tested me to get out of the training program, and I totally bombed it because I got myself so worked up. So whatever. Blue Cross Blue Shield didn't work, which is fine, because I'm not the kind of person that can handle telling someone that the insurance company is not going to cover their child's, needed leukemia treatment or some crazy shit like that. I just wouldn't be able to deal with that without sobbing my eyes out. So I don't think that was the right job for me anyway. But the truth is it totally triggered a million emotions, because I've been fired so many fucking times in my lifetime. I can't even tell you. And for legit reasons, for being a straight up fucking mess, for not being able to show up to work on time because I didn't have babysitters for my kids, or, all that crap that happens when you're a single mom. So I've been fired so many times. I got fired again, and that always sends me into a tailspin of, a downward spiral of depression, which I went into. And then my good friend Todd stepped up on Facebook and offered me some help. He, has his own business or whatever, and offers to every now and again give me some side work to do. And so he did that again, and thank God, because he's really helped to carry me over so many times in the past. I'm so grateful to you, Todd. Thank you. So I did that for a little bit, and then during this time I reconnected with my old friend from when I was pregnant with Sarah at 14 and 15. My friend Sean from Texas, when I was down there, we were when we got pregnant when we were pregnant, we were told by our high school, Round Rock High School in Round Rock, Texas, that we could not be with the general population because we would, influence them or whatever. So they sent us to an alternative school, and I was the only student there for 6 weeks or so, with a teacher and her assistant. So I was acing everything. I was done by all my lessons by 10 a.m. We were in an auto mechanics room, so we had mats, and it was storage. It was I don't know, it was just such a weird spot that they shoved us, So anyway, I had all this time. I would just nap on those big mats back there. I was just totally alone. And then all of a sudden I got Sean. Sean was the next person, and next student that came and joined me, and we were alone and the only students for a month after that or so, and we became very, very close. And during this time, both of our parents, our mothers, kind of went off the deep end in their own ways. Her mom started dancing and getting into the adult entertainment thing, and my mom started a love affair with Jose Cuervo, and we were in, like I said, in Texas at the time, and the common theme had been, you know, like she would get drunk and say she wanted to leave and go to Mexico, and she would, you know, the big thing was about her keys, me hiding her keys so that she couldn't drive drunk and leave me and go to Mexico. So that's kind of what I was dealing with, and why Sean and I bonded so hard during that time. We had a lot on our plates, and we were little girls with little babies and really big messes that we were calling our lives. So, anyway, I had not, when I moved, eventually my mom sent me to live in Buffalo with my grandmother, me and Sarah. And so when I was 16, I was sent away, to start my junior year in another state at another high school, which was fucking devastating. I mean, absolutely fucking devastating. And I missed all my friends, and it was just such a mess, and I was so depressed, and it lasted for about 6 months before I figured out a way to go back, and I went back and tried to live with Sean and her mom with the babies, and it was just, oh my God, such a disaster. I mean, so many inappropriate and just not good. It was just not okay for me to have Sarah there. And so within a month or so, I wound up going back to Buffalo with my tail between my legs, and I'm 16, 17 years old at this point. Anyway, that's really the last time that I saw Sean. Well, actually, I got pregnant again accidentally when I came back to Buffalo, and then in my senior year, I dropped out. I'll tell this whole story in detail some other time, but basically, the last time I had seen Sean once or twice during that, over the years, but nothing really. And so, anyway, we reconnected on Facebook, and she and I we read a book together. We went to a library, and we both got the same book and read it and talked about it, on Facebook Messenger or whatever. She was going through some shit. Long story short, they were paying too much money to live in Denver where they were living, and I was like, well, it's super cheap as fuck in Buffalo. Why don't you come here? So she talked to her dude, and they were expecting a baby, and I was like, well, just come and stay here in my place until we figure it out. I'll give you my bedroom, and you guys figure out how to get your own place, and in the meantime, you can just crash with me. Well, when she got here, I thought everything was all cool, and the morning after, they were arguing, her and her dude, Chris, were arguing in my bedroom, and it turned out she came out a few minutes later and said, I'm going to park because this keeps on falling. She came out a few minutes later and said, we need to get him a clinic. And I'm like, a clinic? What, is he sick? And she's like, no, like a methadone clinic. And I'm like, wait, what? What the fuck, dude? You didn't mention methadone. Like, what do you mean? So I got a quick education about heroin addiction. Apparently, he had been homeless on the streets for the year prior, and she's basically scooped him up off the street and had rescued him. And then they made a baby on purpose, and they were on their way, so they came and stayed with me, and it blew up because of that. So he tried to detox in my apartment, and that didn't go well. And eventually he called an ambulance, and he went to the county hospital where he detoxed for a week. And during that time, Sean and I had the most amazing time together. It was so good. And we were getting shit done and totally reconnecting. But then he came home, and it was a disaster, and I couldn't handle it. And one day while they were both gone, I just moved all their shit out of my bedroom and into the living room and set them up with a living space there and put my shit back in the bedroom because I needed a door to close on their fucking drama. And they really felt like they needed their privacy and that I had changed everything, and they were pissed. So we started arguing, and things escalated, and to the point where I'm like, get the fuck out of my house. And then we resolved it, and a neighbor I had, a lot of things happened. It's really complicated, but basically there was a neighbor that that had left his apartment, and his apartment was available. So I saw an opportunity for them to be able to get out of my house and into that house, and also keep them from having to deal with their financial issues that they couldn't overcome, which was finding a security deposit. So it just seemed like a really good fit. They wouldn't need a security deposit. They could just come in and sublet. It was going to be great. So that's what they did. Until the guy came back, and then he wanted his apartment back, and that was like a couple months in. And by this point, the baby was born, and, you know, everything had been really intense, and I was there for all of it, and the baby was premature. She was, you know, in the NICU, and she came home from the hospital at like 3 pounds. Like, we went through some shit with this little baby girl, and I love her, and it's really sad that everything's turned out the way that it has. But anyway, so okay, so that brings us to like November. So around November, my other best friend, Chrissy, calls from Brooklyn, and she's like, you know, my boyfriend's moving out. He's going back to India. I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to afford this. I need a roommate. And I'm like, dude, I love you. Why don't you come home? And she's like, no, I'm not coming home. I'm like, listen, just hear me out. Why don't you just come home, stay with me? We'll like work, you know, and save up our money and come up with a solid plan. And then after we have a solid plan, go back to Brooklyn and work shit out, and we'll live there, and we'll have like this amazing, you know, next chapter of our lives as single, mature women, you know, like free empty nesters. So it sounded like so much fun, and Sean and Chris were doing their own thing with the baby, and they clearly, like, he hated me being a part of anything. I think he really honestly just felt like I was taking over, and it wasn't that I was taking over, is that I understood what needed to be done, because I've been doing this for fucking 25 years or 28 years. I'm a grandmother, for God's sake. I know how to help her. He has been an addict for 20 years, so he has no idea how to help anybody, including himself. So, yeah, I think I overshadowed him a bit and made him look a little bad, and I actually enjoyed it because he was such a dick that I really enjoyed showing him up, which was not nice to a guy struggling with addiction. And now I realize that, or I realized it later. But anyway, Chrissy was like, dude, I heard you out. Now hear me out. Why don't you come here and stay with me and help me pay the rent here, and we'll figure it out from there. And I was like, well, I might as well, because there's nothing going on here, and, you know, and then they could just take my apartment back, and that'll be perfect. So that's what I decided to do. And when I offered my apartment back to them, Chris said no. He said that they were going to stay. Remember that the guy whose apartment it actually was asking to go back. He wanted to take his apartment back. And here I am leaving, and I'm saying, take mine. And he's like, no, I'm not leaving. And I'm like, how the fuck can you say that? You didn't pay any security. Your name is not on the lease. Like, what the fuck? Who the hell are you? Who the hell are you that you think you can do that? It just shocked me. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Then don't take my fucking apartment, but I'm still going to bail. You know, so I left, and within a week, she called, and she's like, can you get my name on the lease? We want to take the apartment. I'm like, oh, okay. So actually, within a week of me leaving, but mind you, it had been like a month since I had suggested it. It was a month after I suggested that they move in that they finally did. So anyway, I'm in Brooklyn. I'm there for 3 weeks. I'm living with Chrissy in this garage apartment where we have mattresses on the floor. It's drafty as fuck. There's mice. It was horrible. It was horrible. And goddamn, I fucking hate Brooklyn. I hate New York City. It's way too many people. It's way too much energy for me. It was overwhelming. I cried every night in my sleep. Chrissy kept on waking me up. She's like, Sherry, you're screaming in your sleep. wake up. You're screaming that you hate somebody in your sleep. Wake up. She's like, like one night she got so mad at me that she like got up. She's like, I can't sleep. You keep on falling asleep and screaming. So that was crazy intimidating. I was trying to drive for Uber Eats and I wasn't making any money, and driving in New York City is like the most overwhelming fucking thing I've ever tried to do in my life. So the whole thing was just a disaster. And within 3 weeks, Chrissy was like, you know what? It's just not working. I don't think this is a good idea. And I was like, wait, what? I just fucking got here. What do you mean? Like, I gave up my apartment. I moved here for you because you asked me to, and now you want me to leave? Like, what the fuck? Oh my God. Another person asking me to leave. And again, this is not the first time I've been asked to leave. My mom just kicked me the fuck out. My mother. My grandmother had kicked me out years before. Now my best friend is like, dude, it's not working out. You gotta go. And I'm like, where the fuck am I gonna go? So that was horrible. And I had tried to come up with some other solutions. I was going to try and go for my traveling goals, and I was going to try and do this like house sitting thing, and I got a gig in Connecticut where I was going to stay in this gorgeous place for like 6 weeks or some crazy shit, or 3 weeks, I don't remember what it was. But that's how I was going to avoid paying the rent and letting Chris and Sean stay in my apartment. I was going to try and stay out of the apartment so I wouldn't disrupt them and the baby and everything, right? So all that's going on. And Sean and I had been talking about me coming home, and she was like, well, when you get home, just come here, and when you get into town, just come here, and even if it's late, just crash on the couch or whatever, and then we'll start doing blah blah blah. We had like all these things that we were gonna do. So then the next day, she's like, can you do me a favor? Can you please call Chris and ask him if you can stay with us? And I'm like, wait, what? Ask him if I can stay with you guys? What do you mean? In my apartment? Like, it's my apartment. Ask him if, first of all, I don't even need to, because I've got the girls and I'm staying with Haley and Sarah and my mom. But it was just because you suggested that I crash on the couch when I got here. Like, other than that, I don't even need to crash there. She's like, but you can't, can you? And I'm like, whatever, fine, I'll fucking ask. This is ridiculous, and I can't believe you're asking me to do this, but fine, I'll fucking ask him. You're asking me to do a favor. I don't agree with your favor, but I'll fucking do it. So I did. And he didn't respond for a day. And then the next day he responded, and he was like, sorry, we don't have enough room. Like, really? And right away, I talked to her, and I'm like, dude, this is on you. Like, how the fuck could you let him have the say in this? How the fuck did you let him have the deciding factor say in any of this? This is crazy that you even let him have this. We're done. I'm fucking done. I'm not doing this with you guys anymore. We're fucking done. And then she sent me a text and said, well, we'll be out by Friday. And I'm like, whatever. Don't fucking leave by Friday. Just go. You keep on threatening to go back to Texas. Go back to Texas. Whatever. I've done everything. I've given you everything I have. I left her my car, by the way. I had a car. I paid it off. $1,000. I paid it off. And then I fucking left the car for her and the baby because I wasn't going to have her walking around, downtown Buffalo, or, Buffalo in the winter with a fucking newborn Down syndrome baby that needs, surgeries. She's fucking heart surgery and spinal surgery, this baby. And no, she's not taking these babies on the train, on the bus, on the train, dragging her through the snowstorms. I left her the car. I was going to Brooklyn, and I was going to be driving Chrissy's car. So that's what happened. So I come back to town for Christmas. I'm there like 2 days before, something like that. And I'm just so annoyed with her and the Chris situation that I didn't even respond or talk to her when I got to town. And when I finally did a couple days later, I was like, well, are you still planning? What's going on? Are you actually leaving on Friday? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, well, I guess we should talk about some shit. And she's like, talk about what? I'm like, we should make some arrangements. And she's like, arrangements for what? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what? Listen, just meet me at Sarah's house. I was like, just meet me there and we'll talk about this. So she comes in and she's, you know, I take the baby and I love her to fucking pieces. And I'm you know, I'm so excited to see the baby. And we sit down and I'm waiting because I want to see what's going to come out of her mouth. I don't know what she's going to say. The first thing out of her fucking mouth is about Chris and his birth dad and what, blah. I don't care. Like, what? You're talking to me about him? Fuck him. Like, our friendship is on the line right now. And the first thing out of your mouth is the subject of all of our contention. That's not smart. Like, it just, right away, it was a huge bomb. I felt like she just dropped a bomb on our friendship when that was the first thing out of her mouth. And I was done immediately. I'm like, I can't believe that. This is what you're talking, okay. I don't care about Chris and his dad, but I do care about, you know, what's going on with us. So why don't we talk about that? So that just exploded and got nasty super fucking fast. And I was like, you should have told me before you got here that he was an addict. And she's like, you should have told me that you were an addict. I'm like, an addict? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't shoot anything in my fucking veins. I'm not fucking snorting shit up my nose. Like, I don't know what the... She's like, you smoke weed like a crack addict. I'm like, that's... Oh my God. Not comparable. They're not the same fucking thing. I'm sorry, they are just not even in the same category, okay? And I find it incredibly offensive that she would compare them as being the same thing. And so I was so mad. I'm like, just, we're fucking done. Whatever. Just... So she basically, I was so upset with her that I gave her back the baby a bit more forcefully than I probably should have. And I feel really bad about that. I didn't hurt the baby or whatever, but my actions were more like abrupt and mean than I meant them to be. And I think she really internalized that and it hurt her. And she basically ran out of the house. And I was like, whatever, we'll fucking figure it out. I guess I'll be, you know, dealing with you moving. She was basically, I was like, well, what about, you know, the apartment? She's like, well, you'll figure it out. I'm like, it's like the end of the month. Like, what the fuck? I don't have $1,000 in rent or $800. Like, what do you mean?